Hi there, my name is Simon. I'm from the Norwegian EV Association. We are sitting here at the Nordic EV Summit 2025, and right beside me is the CEO and co-founder of International Council for Clean Transportation, ICCT, Drew Kodjak. Welcome.
Wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much. Explain to us, what is ICCT?
So the ICCT is a global organization, and its mission is to help governments transition to clean vehicles and fuels. We started 25 years ago working on air pollution and driving catalytic converters and cleaner engines and fuels. We then turned to efficiency and climate change, and we are now in the third phase where we are working with governments around the world to accelerate the transition to zero-emission vehicles or electric vehicles for the most part, for light-duty, heavy-duty, marine, aviation, construction, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, etc.
So the whole world is your playground for EV adoption?
We are both broad in geographic scope, global, and we are narrow in our focus on the technology transition for transportation.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. But before you joined your current role, you also worked at the environmental agency in the United States, right?
So before co-founding the ICCT in 2005, I worked as a lawyer for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, literally writing regulations for clean vehicles and fuels. At the time, this is in the late 1990s to early 2000s, worked on regulations for heavy-duty vehicles and diesel fuel snowmobiles and what we call mobile source air toxics.
Cool.
Yeah.
And actually, you and some of your colleagues were the ones in the United States, not in Europe, ironically, but in the United States, breaking the Dieselgate with Volkswagen. And let's not get into specifics regarding that. But actually, what did Dieselgate mean for paving the way for the EV transition, do you think?
Sure. Well, the quick story is that it actually started in Europe.
Yeah.
My Berlin office was aware of the fact that diesel cars in Europe were emitting many times their emission limits. And the theory was that if we tested diesel cars in the United States, they would be clean under real world conditions.
Yeah.
So we put a miniaturized testing lab in the trunks of 2 Volkswagens and 1 BMW. We tested them. The BMW did fine. The 2 Volkswagens did not do well. They tested very well under laboratory conditions, but were emitting 15 to 40 times the legal limit when they were just driven on normal roads. And that led, that data, that analysis, and we worked with the state of California to do that. And then California and EPA and the Department of Justice brought an action against Volkswagen to both clean up the vehicles and to pay penalties. And it resulted in $15 billion in total penalties and compliance costs for Volkswagen. But it also really transformed the world in terms of the way all governments do their testing in vehicles and compliance for vehicles. And the broader point here is that if we really want to deal with air pollution, we need inherently clean vehicles, and those are electric vehicles for the most part for passenger cars and commercial trucks. So I think that's the significance. I mean, just to give you a sense, we continue to do this type of tracking of and monitoring of what we call real world emissions. We released a report in Delhi last summer and found that compressed natural gas vehicles in Delhi, which were seen historically as being very clean, were actually emitting 14 times the legal limit. Yeah. So it continues to beat the drum that conventional vehicles driven by diesel or CNG or gasoline are both dirtier than electric vehicles and have the potential to be much dirtier.
Yeah.
And so if we really are serious about cleaning the air and dealing with climate change, we need to transition to electric vehicles.
So you'd actually argue that the Dieselgate were back then also paving the way for the EV transition and a shift in the auto industry?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah.
And just to be specific, I mean, I think it's done a tremendous amount to pave the way for the electric vehicle transition. And even at Volkswagen, it transformed the company.
Cool.
The company had been very, very rigid in its decision making and very, very committed to the diesel. And because of both Dieselgate, but also Tesla, frankly, showing the way, and the fact that the largest market for Volkswagen is now not in Europe, but in China, and China is clearly going electric, that Volkswagen really did a 180-degree turn and really embraced the EV transition. So I recently sold my Tesla, just to make it personal for a moment.
Okay.
And the car that I bought in its place is an Audi e-tron.
Okay.
Right. So just to give you a sense that I'm fully supportive of Volkswagen at this point. I think the company has made its amends, has paid its penalties, and is doing everything it can to promote the EV transition.
And are you a happy EV driver yourself?
Well, I've been a happy EV driver since 2018.
All right, great.
So I was, I guess, an early adopter, as you might expect, as the president of the ICCT. And Tesla has done historically a terrific job in driving that transition, barring recent unfortunate events. And, you know, I'm very also happy with supporting Volkswagen.
Yeah, great. My last question is, you also worked for the Biden White House at some point during your career. And you were one of the architects for all the different EV regulation subsidy packages in the affordable, in the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. And how is that going? And will we see a change under the current Trump administration? Or is there still hope for continuing the EV adoption in the United States?
Yeah, well, great question. I worked in the Biden White House in the Climate Policy Office from about middle of 2023 to 2024. And was responsible for transportation within that office. The Biden administration, I think it's fair to say, is likely to go down in history as the most consequential administration in the US in driving massive amounts of support for transitioning to green technologies, both for vehicles and for the power sector, et cetera. And the messaging from the Biden administration, I think, was very appropriate in that it looked at climate change not only from an environmental perspective, but also from a global competitiveness, green development, good jobs perspective. And I think that's the right way to look at it. And the Inflation Reduction Act was a very muscular way of sending a message to the world and obviously to the United States that we are trying to build out new manufacturing and new jobs. And so it gave subsidies for the production of EV batteries in the United States, very, very substantial. And we heard from battery companies that all of those subsidies were tremendously impactful. And because of all of that, because of those subsidies, we have now a large number of EV battery manufacturing plants that are slated for coming online over the next several years that will bring with them jobs and economic development, et cetera. And the same thing goes for subsidies for the sale of both light-duty vehicles and heavy-duty vehicles, and then support for charging infrastructure, again, for light-duty vehicles and for heavy-duty vehicles. So it was a full package, and it also included the regulations that require manufacturers to produce the vehicles. So it lays the full menu of policies that you need to really accelerate the transition.
All right, but just very short, so we see that policy and politics actually work. Just a very short answer. Throughout the next 4 years in the current Trump administration, we'll see what happens next. All this that you just mentioned, will it still work in the long run in the US? Will we see a continuation of the rollout of charging infrastructure, battery manufacturing, EV adoption in the US, regardless of the Trump administration, do you think, and also with the Congress in place?
So it's very difficult to forecast what's going to happen, of course. What we do know is that 80% of the subsidies under the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, under the Biden administration, has gone to and is going to red states.
Yeah.
And so there is a strong support, not just in blue states, not just in liberal cities, but throughout the United States for the EV transition, not based on climate, but based on just economic development and jobs and districts and everything.
Sure.
So that gives us hope that the transition will be sustainable, even under the Trump administration.
Yeah.
It's, of course, likely, given the fact that Donald Trump and others have been very negative about electric vehicles, it's likely that some of the policies will be pared back a little bit. We'll see how much.
Yeah.
But I know the manufacturers are still committed. We know General Motors, we know Ford, we know Stellantis, we know Tesla, we know Rivian, we know the heavy-duty manufacturers as well are very supportive and see electric vehicles as the future.
Cool.
Right? So we may get a haircut. We may get more than a haircut in the United States.
Yeah.
But the main message is it will continue to happen in the United States, and the rest of the world is also following suit.
Great. If we see in Norway now, we are almost at 100% new EV car sales this year. Globally, at what point, at what decade, at what year do you think that we'll reach more than 50% of new car sales being electric vehicles? Do you have a prediction?
Sure. Great question. This is fun.
Yeah.
To set the scene, 60% of new passenger cars sold in China are now electric.
Yeah.
So 60% in China, 20% in the UK, obviously near 100% in Norway, which is fantastic, 16% in Europe, 10% in the United States. So my projection would be that by 2035, the world globally will hit 50% EV sales for light-duty vehicles.